Welcome everyone to this Graduate Research in Education webinar. I'm Professor Stephen Roberts. I'm the Associate Dean Graduate Research in the Faculty of Education. And if we could go to the next slide, please. I'm going to start by giving an acknowledgement of country, acknowledgement of the country I speak from today, which is the sovereign lands of the people of the Kulin Nation. And I'm going to leave these important words here on the slide for you to read, but I'm going to deviate from the script a little bit. And basically, instead, I'm following the guidance and insight that's been given to me by my Aboriginal colleagues who have asked me, and indeed, I think they ask all of us, to better understand that acknowledging country is a cultural contract and an opportunity to make clear our personal connection with and our personal intentions, I suppose, towards the country and the people that we're acknowledging. So I quickly want to acknowledge the fact that I am here on Kulin Nation as someone who was born in the UK, but as a result, at least in part, of the significant legacy of Britain's colonization of India. And yet here I am on this side of the globe as a result of these same instruments of colonization in some ways. And this is a concept and a reality which is difficult to reconcile. But most importantly, I stand here with gratitude and with thanks to the traditional custodians of this country, which is the people of the Wurundjeri and Boonwurrung people, for looking after these lands and waters that are now places where I live, work, and raise my own family, including being with my wife and my son who was born here. And I stand here with a commitment to honor this country and the continuing sovereignties of all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander countries and peoples across the nation, acknowledging that their sovereignty has never been ceded, and that I promise to endeavor to listen to and learn from First Nations people and be an ally in the calls for voice, treaty, and truth. So I can have the next slide, please. Ooh, one more. Oh yeah, okay, great. So welcome to everyone. And just to mention, I should have said at the outset, we will give you plenty of time for questions at the end once we've worked through our slides. It's great to have you here. Having anyone turn up at all, but certainly more than a handful, is a strong indicator of some shared understandings that that we believe in graduate research, that it's valuable, that it can be meaningful, and that it can give opportunities to enhance one's employability prospects through developing higher order thinking skills, through developing technical skills that are needed to independently manage a large and complicated project. And all of these things can combine to lead to scope to climb the ladder in current occupations or stimulate new career directions. But beyond that more kind of instrumental impact on the self, it's an opportunity to make a genuine contribution to knowledge that can have a real world impact, even as part of your graduate training. So the other thing I kind of wanted to say, I suppose, that on this slide, these numbers are things that you've probably given thought to already. And it might even be why you're here, but choosing a destination for your graduate research program is, of course, a complex set of thoughts and feelings, weighing up pros and cons. It's not an easy equation. And there'll be more to your decision than these numbers that you can see on the screen, but certainly they're things you'd want to know about. You want to know about the reputation of the place and the people that you'll be committing yourself to for 3.5 to 4 years as a full-time graduate researcher, or 7 to 8 years as a part-time graduate researcher, as a large number of our graduate researchers are. So in short, we are a group of scholars that wants to be humble, but we're also a group of scholars who are proud of these numbers. We are #1 for education in Australia, and we rank 13 in the world for among, I think there's well over 350 providers with recognized education departments in these rankings. So we're right there towards the very top. We have world-class researchers basically who kind of propel us up those rankings, who are at the cutting edge of their disciplines and specific fields of inquiry. Our colleagues publish their research in the best academic journals, and their work informs policy and practice locally, nationally, and internationally. So these are the people who are waiting to be supervisors and mentors of the next generation of graduate researchers who will come to Monash. If I could go to the next slide, please. So at a strategic level, the research we do here revolves around a key concern with fostering fair and sustainable futures. And that basically means a research with a deep commitment to social justice. And then there are 5 broad core streams that connect the different bodies of research that the faculty members here are involved in. So I'll just quickly whiz through what these are before we move on. So first of all, research that reimagines the role of educational leaders to better address the complex challenges of an unequal and increasingly polarized world. Secondly, research that looks at how teaching and learning must and should innovate and adapt and change for the contemporary world that we live in. And then relatedly, the third theme, research that examines the educational implications of established and also emerging digital technologies. Fourthly, research that has a more public education angle aiming to support healthy communities and address ongoing health inequalities locally and internationally. And then lastly, research that examines how systems, institutions, educators, and communities can engage in socially just and in evidence-informed practices to create egalitarian possibilities for lifelong learning and more. And we hope what you see here is some alignment with your own interests. These are they're broad streams and themes, and a lot of different types of ideas stick to these themes. So if you can't quite see yourself plotting on precisely, there are more conversations to be had, but that's our kind of broad overview. And I'll hand over to Jen.
Thanks so much, Stephen, for that brilliant introduction to our faculty and to what we do here in the Faculty of Education, Monash University. Indeed, we're all really proud to be working for the #1 ranking Faculty of Education in the country. And just to introduce myself, my name is Jennifer. I'm from the faculty's Future Students team. So my role involves talking to students just like you on a daily basis. So I'm really, really happy to see so many of you tuning in tonight or somewhere in the world that's actually the morning. So I'm sure we get a lot of overseas students who are interested in doing a PhD or Master Philosophy with us. So let me get on to the next slide about the PhD program that we offer. It is indeed a very long-standing program that we offer, which is part of the Monash doctoral program. Our Doctor of Philosophy, you can do it in 3 years, or some students might take a bit longer, can complete it in 4 years. Students, domestic students can also do it part-time. And you can literally do your PhD from anywhere in the world. You can do it, you can be based at our Clayton campus or Peninsula campus, or if you choose to do so, you can do it from where you actually, from overseas, if you like. So we call that off campus, as long as you keep regular contact with your supervisors and attend all the professional experience, the professional development courses that we do offer to our PhD students. So you can start doing your PhD any time of the year. So we don't have a set time to say, okay, you have to start on the 1st of February or the 1st of July. You can literally start anywhere and from any time of the year. And what you do in a PhD is that you've got a research topic you're really passionate about, something in education you're really interested in, and you want to make a change. You want to make a contribution to this research topic, to this question that you just cannot stop thinking about. You live and breathe it. And that's why people do a PhD. And then you spend 3 to 4 years on it, thinking, reading, doing research, talking with your peers, with colleagues, and then you write an 80,000 word thesis. So the thesis will be an independent piece of research that you do, and you will get feedback from your supervisors, from your colleagues. So it's really exciting. It's like writing a book, basically, and we will help you. We will help you with your professional development by offering 120 hours of professional development. And my colleague Megan here just kindly reminded me that there is some changes relating to doing a course online. If you are a Chinese student, I'm sure if you're a Chinese student, you are aware of this. So if you want to make sure that your qualification is recognized by the Chinese government, then you will have to do it on campus. For PhD, yeah, there might be some different rules for PhD students. Make sure you check with the local authorities if you want to get your overseas qualification recognized. And in terms of entry requirements, I don't need to repeat all the text that is on the slide. Just make sure that if you want to do the PhD, you need to already have substantial research experience so that we can see that, yes, you can do an independent piece of research. And that, how we decide that, how do we determine that you have got that ability and experience, is by looking at whether you have already done a thesis. And the thesis can be from your honors degree, can be from your master's degree, and we need to see that the score is at least 70% for your thesis, so that we can we see that you are a high quality student and high quality researcher. And as with all Monash courses, you need to meet the English language requirement. If you're taking the IELTS test, we need to see that you got an overall score of 6.5 and no band less than 6.0. Next slide, please. Thank you, Patrick. And then this is something that we have just introduced. This is a new course, a Master of Philosophy. So you know that the PhD is 3 to 4 years, right? What if you are really interested in a research question in education, but you don't want to commit to, 3 to 4 years of your life, because it is a long time. And if you're not sure, you can start with a Master of Philosophy. You can just finish it and still get the research done. So the Master of Philosophy is much shorter. It's 2 years full-time, and domestic students can do it part-time. And again, students can be based at Clayton Peninsula, or if you can also do this course from other parts of the country or elsewhere in the world, but do check with the local government whether online qualifications will be recognized. Again, you can start from any time of the year, and in contrast to a 80,000 seat thesis for the PhD, you only need to do 35,000 words in complete that in 2 years. And again, you have regular meetings with your supervisors, and you have 60 hours of professional development. And that could be about your career development. It could be about academic publishing. There's a range of topics for you to choose from. And in terms of entry requirements, again, English language requirement, 6.5 overall for IELTS, and no band less than 6.0. And then for academic requirement, we need to again see that you have the ability and the experience of having done a research thesis, and the score needs to be at least 65. It can be from your honors degree. It can also be from a graduate diploma, diploma, or a master's. So your master's could be a master of a coursework. So sorry, your master's might be thesis, but it might not be something that you want to be focusing on now. So you can use that to apply for a Master of Philosophy. And this is a perfect opportunity for me to mention that for those students who don't actually have the research experience in their undergraduate degree or their master's degree, you can choose our Graduate Certificate of Educational Research that we offer at Monash. This course is a 6-month course, and it involves a research methodology unit as well as a research project, a research report component. So you actually be writing a research report in this course, and if you meet 65% in each unit, you will be eligible to apply for the Master of Philosophy. And same for the Doctor of Philosophy, for the PhD. If you do our Graduate Certificate of Educational Research and reach 70% average in each of the 2 units, you will be eligible to apply for the PhD. But I will leave the details to Professor Megan Adams to talk about this graduate certificate as a pathway, as she is the course leader. Next slide, please. So how do you apply for the PhD or the Master of Philosophy? So first of all, you need to check that you're eligible. How do you check that? There is a web link that you can see on the slide. So you can go to that website and find out all about the eligibility criteria. So we just as we discussed, there's the academic requirements, there's the research experience, and there's the English language requirement. If you meet all of that, all those requirements, then you can go on to contact supervisors. How do you find a supervisor? A lot of students ask me this question. Well, it's really simple. It's like online shopping, but not quite, because you're not buying anything. You go online and look at what our academics do and what their research interests are. And if you find someone whose interests align with yours, just send them an email. Say, hey, I read your papers and they're really interesting, and I'm also passionate about the same areas. Can I work with you? And you can send them your CV, your transcripts, your proposal if you've already got one. And then they might say, yeah, great, I'm also interested. Let's have a chat or something. You can chat you can have a meeting online, or if you're in Australia, you can have a face-to-face meeting. So there's many, many ways to find a supervisor. So you need to be able to secure a supervisor before you submit an expression of interest to us. So that form is on our website, and you just need to fill in the details, attach all the supporting documentation. And if you meet all the requirements, our faculty's graduate research team will send you an invitation to apply. And with that invitation to apply, you can then lodge your formal application for the PhD or the Master of Philosophy. They're both research degrees. You'll be doing a research thesis in either. So the difference is PhD is longer, and you will spend more time looking deeper in a question. The Master of Philosophy, it gives you a taste of what doing a significant piece of independent research is like. And after the first 9 to 12 months, if you are progressing well in your Master of Philosophy, you can actually apply to transfer to the PhD course. So the Master of Philosophy can be used as sort of a trial to see if you can actually take on doing a PhD. So that's another way to look at the Master of Philosophy. Next slide, please. And very importantly, scholarships. So there are 4 rounds of scholarships that we offer here at Monash, 2 rounds for international students and 2 for domestic students. So for international students, you'll be looking at dates of 31st of March and 31st of August. They're very easy to remember, end of the month. So for so we're coming up, the 31st of March is the deadline is coming up. So if you're an international student and want to apply for a PhD or Master of Philosophy scholarship, then you really should get on contacting supervisors now and then put in your expression of interest. And for domestic student, the next round coming up is the 31st of May. And we always encourage students to at least secure a supervisor a month ahead of the actual application closing date, just to give yourself more time to organize all your documentation and give enough time to our graduate research team to assess and look at your transcripts and your eligibility, so that they can decide whether you get an invitation to apply for the formal degree or not. And for in terms of tuition fees, so domestic students, and that includes Australian citizens, Australian permanent residents, New Zealand citizens, as well as Australian humanitarian visa holders. These students don't need to pay tuition fees if you do a research degree. So if you do master philosophy, PhD, you don't need to pay tuition fee. But when you apply for the scholarship, and if you get it, the scholarship will pay for your living expenses. And if you're an international student, if you get the scholarship, most likely the scholarship will cover both tuition and living expenses. Next slide, please. Right. So hopefully that bit about how to apply and the entry requirements was useful. And as I said earlier, we do offer students who haven't got the research experience a pathway into our research degrees, and that is our Graduate Certificate of Educational Research. And we're very, very honored to have course leader for this course with us tonight, Megan Adams. Professor Megan Adams, if you'd like to take over from here.
Okay, sure. Thanks. I wasn't expecting that, Jen, but great. Okay, so basically the Graduate Certificate of Educational Research is 6 months full-time. Part-time is also available. It's available through flexible mode. So that means that we do have on-campus students and we also have off-campus students, and they Zoom in online on Thursday evenings when the course is being presented. You can begin this course in either January, 1st of January or 1st of July. And it's basically a pathway for high achieving students to enter into a PhD. So as Jen said, that's entering into a PhD if you get 70% in 2 units. So it has to be the 2 units which are included in the degree, EDF 5613 and EDF 5614. So you need 70 in both of those. And if you get 65, you can actually enroll in the Master of Philosophy, which Jen was talking about a few minutes ago. So both of those pathways are absolutely fine pathways to a PhD. Yeah, and I guess if there's any questions, then I'll answer those later in the Q&A.
Brilliant. Thanks, Megan. And now we welcome our PhD alumna, Dr. Jacklo Maestri, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Welcome back, Jackilo.
Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Yeah, I'm happy to share my experiences when I was a student at the Faculty of Education. So before coming to Australia, I was a primary school teacher, English teacher in the Philippines. And although I did a Bachelor of Industrial Technology, major in electronics technology, it did not stop me from being an English teacher. So obviously I did Master in TESOL in 2014, 2015. Now it's called Master of TESOL. So please don't be confused. Yeah, I was blessed with an Australia Awards scholarship, but had to render a return service in my country after graduating in 2015. And when I enrolled, it was initially Master in TESOL coursework. And at the end of my first year, yeah, I asked Monash if I could do the research pathway, which they explained a while ago, because I already planned to pursue a PhD. So they assessed my grades and allowed me to enroll in EDF 5613 and 5614, as what Megan mentioned. And yeah, it required me to submit a 10,000 word thesis. And I really did my best to get high grades. Yeah, even if I had a part-time job as a sushi maker. So what got me through was good time management skill, and also good set of friends, positive influence, I would say, and supportive family, and of course, amazing lecturers. And aside from doing a part-time job, I also volunteered as an Open Day Student Ambassador, also our UOK Day volunteer, and then I was involved in the Filipino Student Organization. And then I joined conferences in the USA, in Europe. I attended a student festival in Norway, went to New Zealand to attend a conference as well, and had the best 2 years of my master's degree. And another thing that I did was to be strategic. So because I already had this plan of going back to Australia after my return service, and I wanted to do a PhD, I kept in touch with my contacts and my lecturers, and that's how I got my supervisor. So I asked one of my lovely lecturers to be my supervisor and my other teachers to be my referees, because I wanted to apply for that scholarship at the Faculty of Education. And I was so thrilled to get the Monash International Postgraduate Research Scholarship and Monash Graduate Research Scholarship, which covered my tuition fees and my living expenses. So, and in terms of the research topic, of course, I chose the research topic that was really close to my heart and what I'm really passionate about. And I blended two topics, which are the digital technologies and then English language learning. And one of my motivations was really to graduate at Monash because it's known for its education programs and high quality teaching. When I was a student, I faced various adversities. And of course, the thesis was not a walk in the park. There were times that I felt so blank and, couldn't write anything, not even a word. But don't worry, because when you study at the Faculty of Education, you will get all the support that you need. I joined a writing group, library sessions, also PhD conversations in the PhD hub, where you get to meet PhD students and they will just ask you, what's your study? And then you will be able to explain in a minute or two. And that's where I developed my communication skills. I was a very shy student and wouldn't speak to other students as well. But yeah, I learned how to get out of my shell. And there was a time that I lost my laptop because I left it on top of a top-up Mikey machine in Huntingdale Station. And when I went back, it was gone. And my first milestone was in 2 months, and all my drafts were not saved in the Monash Drive. My whole PhD life was on that laptop, and yeah, good thing I sent a copy to my email, and I was also able to print a hard copy as well. It was a hard lesson learned, and yeah, to save everything in the drive and be responsible. And also during the pandemic, I got sick and I had to file for sick leave and then extended my thesis submission. So what I'm trying to say here is that don't hesitate to ask for help, because there is a lot of support from the faculty. You just have to explore all of these. And yeah, luckily and blessed that I graduated in December last year. And although I was not given a chance to be like a teaching associate or research assistant while doing my PhD, which may be a bit sad because I couldn't compete with other PhD graduates, I still had a great experience because I was able to work in English Connect at Monash Uni as a global professional communication facilitator. I was also a PhD student ambassador. And then I was Monash Education Research Community Leader. And then I became the president of the Filipino Student Council of Victoria and got involved in various activities. So I learned a lot of skills and I was able to build networks. So at the moment, I work as an admissions officer in the Faculty of Medicine here at Monash. Obviously, it's not my field of expertise. I haven't found my dream job yet, which is to be a lecturer in the uni, but I'm working on it. And yes, I got a lot of rejection emails, but I think it's part of life and not everything is a bed of roses. So, and being rejected does not mean that I am not capable. It means that I have to keep on trying and improving myself. So recently I had job interviews and one of them offered me a job as an English as a second language teacher. And also I'll be a teaching associate at La Trobe University this semester. So in summary, I think I can just give you like 4 things to keep in mind. So first is, listen to your heart, do things that are valuable to you and will lift you up. Be open to opportunities, do not limit yourself. optimize your potential, be proactive, join organizations, offer yourself and your talents, visualize your success, value your networks, your friends, your lecturers, and the people who support you. And if they can't give you something, they will recommend you to someone they know. And then don't forget to volunteer. Try to contribute, helping others to develop themselves. So at the moment, I volunteer as an adult migrant English program tutor. So I have 2 students who are refugees, one from Syria and one from Egypt. So I'm so happy to be able to help them. And of course, engage yourself with various activities, explore, employ strategies to navigate this challenging world. So again, listen, be open, visualize, engage, explore, employ. So in short, LOVE, which is love. And yeah, I think that's the key. Thank you.
That was so lovely, Jackie. Thank you so much for sharing your experience and your great tips. They're really practical. And yeah, I was so impressed that you were definitely keeping busy during the time you were doing the PhD, and you were able to finish it. Yeah, well done. You got so much done during the 4 years that you did the PhD. So, and I'm really glad to hear that you're doing lots of volunteering work still, and you are pursuing academic teaching roles. And yeah, semester will start next week. So yeah, there's still time and for you to explore for semester 2, definitely. And congratulations on getting the role at La Croix.
Thank you.
You're most welcome. And I think we can now go on to the Q&A. I can see that there's a lot of questions in the Q&A already, and we've got my colleagues from the Research Office, Romalia and Alice, answering lots of questions, and my colleague Patrick as well, already typing away, really busy. But I can see that there's some questions that we would be answering live here. So the first question was from hi, I want to be able to teach at a university level. So which course out of the ones mentioned will allow me to be eligible to do that? About to complete my master's degree. Right, so I think this question will be best answered by Steve and Megan, if you guys want to share your experience, because you are lecturers at the university.
Yeah. I'm happy to have a go, and I'm sure Megan will give an even better answer than me, actually, especially because she's been at the faculty for longer. But in essence, and to be very clear, there isn't a qualification that we provide that makes you qualified to be a university teacher. But if you want a career as a university researcher or a university researcher and teacher, researcher and educator, a PhD is essential. However, when you're doing your PhD, and I think probably for some master's students as well, but I'll definitely ask Megan to clarify that for me. We offer teaching opportunities that they're competitive. They're not available, uniformly to everyone. It's a matter of experience and skill and expertise. But we do invite a fair few of our graduate researchers to take part in tutorials, to lead tutorials, which is a part of the teaching component of teaching for undergraduates. So teaching is available during your degree, during your PhD, but the PhD itself isn't an automatic qualification that gives you teaching qualifications for the higher education sector, but it's a minimum to have a career as a researcher and educator. Yeah, Megan can probably pad that out quite a bit.
Megan, you're on mute.
Sorry, I was giving you a great answer there. So basically, you need to have the same level of degree that you're teaching at in the university. So for example, if you're teaching undergrad students, bachelor degrees, then you need to have a Bachelor of Education. If you're teaching Singapore units, you need to have, I think it's one higher than the unit that you're teaching. So for example, if you're teaching a Master of Education over there, you'd need to be enrolled in a PhD. So they are becoming stricter with this. So, but usually as a just something to think about is whatever degree you have needs to be at the same level of the degree that you're teaching at. And there's also sort of some sort of grey areas, because if you've maybe got an honours degree in teaching, but you've taught for 10 or 15 years, then that is also acceptable. So it really does depend on what you come with, and the professional staff are really good at assessing your qualifications and letting you know which level you can actually teach at. When you're enrolled in a PhD, if you're interested in teaching, usually you fill out an expression of interest, and you sort of select the units that you're interested in. And then if the chief examiner requires some teaching associates, then they will contact you. And yeah, so it happens by word of mouth. It also happens more formally as well. So I hope that answers your question.
Thanks, Megan. And that certainly, it does tell us, you know, it really depends on the university and the qualification that you want to teach. And I suppose, Jackie, you would have some experience in this area, since you mentioned that you've been applying for roles at university. What's the most common requirement that you see on job ads?
Yeah, I think the top one is the qualification, the PhD, or I don't know if I think if it's undergrad, then master's degree students can teach, but yeah, mostly they ask for a PhD. And of course, experience in research and previous teaching experience.
Yeah. Thanks, Jackie. So next question, I graduated from the Grad Cert of Educational Research. Welcome, Garen, alumni. Will I be able to get credit exemption of Master of Philosophy, or do I still have to do the 2 years of study? So the short answer is you won't get credit because there are two different courses. The Master of Philosophy is you will be doing a new piece of research. The topic can be related to the topic that you worked on in the graduate certificate, but essentially you're starting a new course. So short answer is no, you won't be able to get credit. But if you still want to be considered for credit, when you apply for the course, you can mention that, and the graduate research team will assess your request. But since I've also got the grad research team here, I will ask them to share some insights as well. Alice and Romalia, any of you want to?
Yeah, I'm happy to answer. So if, because Master of Philosophy is basically 100% research, it's different with the previous master degree that we had, which had the coursework component in it. So there won't be any credit exemption for the MPhil, unfortunately, from the grad cert. So they just come in as a brand new student, will get the brand new fresh candidate here as well for 2 years full time.
So basically, Garen needs 65 to enter into the MPhil, and 70% across both units to go directly into a PhD.
That's right,
That's
to be
right.
eligible to apply. But if Garen wants to apply for scholarship, I believe the requirements will be higher. Is that right, Alice?
Yeah, it will be 80% for both of the units. And also as the average, the WEM will need to be 80% as well as the minimum.
Yeah, so the 80% is the minimum. It doesn't guarantee that you will definitely get a scholarship.
So that was 80% in the grad certificate of educational research. But I would just like to say there that just if people did receive 80%, that doesn't guarantee you a scholarship. They're very, very competitive. And, you know, usually, as Jackie Lou did state, you know, she received a scholarship, but she did a lot of extra things. And quite often students these days have publications, they do their student advisors, they do all sorts of things connected with the university. They might even be a research assistant as well. So it's very competitive. And just because not just because, but if you do have 80%, that does not by any means guarantee that you will receive a scholarship.
Yeah, thanks, Megan. Yeah, the PhD scholarship application is very competitive because we get applications from, from many applicants, and there are only a limited number of scholarships that we can offer for each round. But if you didn't get a scholarship in the March round, if you're an international student, or in the May round, if you're domestic, doesn't exclude you from applying again in the future. So keep trying. Yes, if you got the 80%, yeah, keep trying. And the next question, does the master's degree in Monash have the exchange program, the Master of Philosophy? I don't think so, but Alice or Romalia, would you like to answer this one?
With the graduate research courses at the moment, we haven't got a confirmation yet whether we're going to have exchange program this year. But we had that exchange program in the past, pre-COVID. But at the moment, we'll just try to finalize it. And if we have, if the exchange program is coming through, then we'll let the student knows about that for sure.
Thanks, Alice. Another question. I completed my honors degree through Monash in 2013. Would I be better suited to do my master's or PhD? That's a very good question. Steve or Megan, if you'd like to have a go.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. It's actually doesn't come with an easy answer because it depends on your interests and what else you've been doing since, I guess. Essentially your preparedness for a PhD, both in terms of your motivation, but also your capability. So that's a kind of conversation that I would be having with a prospective supervisor as well. Once you've kind of thought about who that best person is, done the shopping, as it were, the online shopping to find the person for you, you can figure that out with them. It's not so straightforward. Some people might want to, would be ready to do a master's, and that's the essential next step. Others will be well prepared on the basis of having done more research, perhaps research in their job in the interim time. So it's not so straightforward.
Yeah, that's right, Steve. And can I just add, I think if you do an honours, you need to have a 10,000 word research project. So you need to have completed that to actually enter into a master's degree. And if you don't have that, I think you need to go back to the graduate research, educational research course. So I think it depends on what your honours was on and whether or not it did actually involve an extensive research project. The other thing is it's 10 years old now. Alice, you might be able to help with that. So 2013, and it's 2023. I'm not sure how long they're accredited for or they last for.
Yeah, normally we will we'll have a look at the qualification, of course, and just to see, we normally will prioritize those qualification, which is less than 10 years in general. So, but we'll have a look at the application anyway, and just to, and we can let you know once we receive the EOI application, and we'll give you a feedback whether or not it meet the requirement for a direct entry into the PhD, and also if not, then yes, we'll provide the information if it doesn't meet the requirement.
Thanks, Alice. And thank you, Megan and Steve. You both provided really helpful answers to the student. And I also wanted to emphasize what Megan was saying, whether you already have done that research thesis to be eligible to apply. If your honors degree doesn't involve a significant piece of research like a thesis, then yes, you need to complete a research pathway course, just like our graduate certificate of educational research first, because that actually does involve a research report. And also some students ask, do I have to do a master's in order to do the PhD? So it's not necessary to do a master's to do the PhD. If your honors degree, or if your honors degree already has the research component, then it's likely that you won't need to do another, you won't need to do a master's in order to apply for the PhD. And then we've got a question from an anonymous attendee. I have sent an email to my supervisor for the PhD program. What should I do next? Is it okay to prepare for the EOI application? So I think the short answer is you do need to have your supervisors, you need to be able to secure one supervisor at least in order to fill in the EOI form. We won't be able to send you an invitation to apply for the PhD unless you have got a supervisor who's willing to supervise you. Megan, do you want to add anything to students who have already started contacting supervisors?
I think, yeah, you do need to have your supervisor, an agreement from your supervisor before you put in the EOI. So I'd hold off until I actually had a return and a confirmation that that person was actually going to supervise me before I went through and applied, because it might be that you need to approach some other people. Yeah.
Right. Thanks, Megan. Steve, is there anything you'd like to add? No, all good. Cool. And then we've got a question from Shreya. Wanted to ask, if my research is based in my home country, India, will I be able to receive funding or scholarship for Monash? Alice, would you like to answer this one?
In terms of funding, would it be, maybe it's a kind of scholarship?
I think it's scholarship. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, the students are welcome whenever, whichever background or qualification that they completed before, overseas or in Australia, they are welcome to apply for scholarship. And of course, we'll look into each of the qualification individually, and we'll review it accordingly as well. So it doesn't mean that because we're in Monash in Australia, is only for people who completed the qualification in Australia who are eligible for scholarship, but no, it's everywhere, no matter whichever country that they completed the qualification in.
So if the student is doing their PhD from India, they can still get a scholarship from us?
If they depend, I think, I'm not sure what whether they are currently doing a PhD or just a research in a master degree, or yeah, it has to be more, we just need to get more clarification on that. But if they're doing a master degree, which doing some research on it, then once they completed the master degree, then they can apply for the PhD for the scholarship application. But if they currently doing a PhD already, but wants to transfer to Monash, then it's a different scenario, I guess. We just have to see in more depth on how long have they been doing the PhD and whether the structure of the PhD is the same with Monash. So there are a few things that we need to look into it. It may be a case-by-case things. So it will be best to maybe contact our office first to give a bit of more background on that specific question. And if they want to, they can also submit the EOI application. I think in that way, much better for us to review the application in general. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Alice. So you will look at it on a case by case.
Yeah,
basis.
case by case.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. We don't have much time left, and we've still got lots of questions to go through, so I'll be really quick. For applying for a grad search, educational research, what kind of work experience in the resume can meet the requirement? I don't think there's work experience requirement. Maybe?
No, there's for Melbourne University, there's actually a work experience requirement, and I think also for Deakin, but we don't have one.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, no need to have work experience to apply for a grad search, educational research. Fantastic. It really is focusing on you're enhancing your research experience. So we don't look at what work experience you've got. It's actually about the research. Applying online for the graduate certificate educational research. I'm an international student. The form asks my visa status only has citizen, PR, permanent humanitarian visa, and no option. Who can I speak with about this? Ampa, you can put in a request through Monash Connect. So if you Google Monash Connect, and then you will find their homepage, and then there's an option for you to email us your questions, and then someone from the university will be able to answer that question for you. I'm in my 4th year of PhD in education, from someone anonymous. I would like to apply for a postdoc. Opportunities available more than applying for a scholarship to do another PhD? That's a very good question. Steve or Megan?
Yeah. So again, it's complicated, but there's two kind of issues here at the same time. So postdocs, more often than not in Australia, are connected to projects funded for senior researchers. So from funding bodies like the Australian Research Council, people like Megan or I might get a grant, and usually that comes with a built-in postdoc that we would then advertise for when we have the job. So there isn't this kind of scheme that used to be once upon a time where you could just apply for a postdoc. Those postdocs are actually jobs that exist only with when funding has already been secured by a senior researcher. And the other issue about a second PhD scholarship, actually the university very, very rarely gives people a second scholarship. They're not prioritized in the ranking. So the best thing to do, I think, is keep your eyes peeled for postdoctoral positions as they're advertised on places like jobs.ac.uk and various other ones that Australian universities use as well. But yeah, that you basically you're looking for a postdoctoral position as a job, and it will be tied to a particular research enterprise being conducted by a senior researcher.
Thanks, Steve. And yeah, as Steve said, it's the university will not prioritize in scholarship rankings students who already have the PhD for PhD scholarship applications. So yes, so keep that in mind. Hi, I'm a domestic student with bachelor's and master's finished overseas, obtained certificate for an education support, which is 1 year full-time course. Wish to start master philosophy. Do I still need to take IELTS? The answer is you have to put in your EOI first for our graduate research team to assess to see if you still need to sit IELTS. So we will look at your qualifications and then be able to advise you. I have 3 semesters left for my master's. I'm interested in continuing my studies and applying for a PhD. However, I don't have a research question yet. What's the right way to go about it? Good question. Megan or Steve or Jackie? Anyone like to?
I guess really it's to work with your supervisors. So three semesters away from completion, that's 18 months. So it must be, I'm not sure there's enough information here, but anyway, I think this is really something that you need to go back to your supervisors and have a discussion with. Steve?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. But also, don't put so much pressure on yourself to really have a refined research question at this stage. That will emerge through your thinking and studying in the next 18 months. That's quite a long time of reading and thinking. So yeah, don't put too much pressure on yourself, but have preliminary conversations with your supervisor.
And it seems like this person's may have only just started recently, so it's very early days yet. So yeah, just take it easy, enjoy the ride.
Great tip, Megan. And then someone who is doing a master's in higher education student affairs, interested in campus engagement, student success, couldn't find someone who has that similar interest at Monash. Or Megan, do you know anyone who is
So
doing
going
this
to graduate master's degree in higher education student affairs, is there any PhD program offered with the same? I think generally what you do is you look at a particular specialization. So for example, you can do a doctorate of philosophy in early childhood education, or a doctorate of philosophy in secondary education, or a general doctorate of philosophy. So I don't know that there's one, I don't know of one in student affairs, but it might be that you generally look at education. So generally look at PhD, a doctorate of philosophy in education more generally, and that might be the degree that you take. I probably haven't answered that very well. Alice, do you want to say more about that?
I agree with you, Megan. I think, yeah, we have to work with the student will need to work with the proposed supervisor just to see whether they can somehow form the proposal, research proposal in that similar area. But yeah, I'm not sure whether we have a specific academic staff in that area. Then yeah, if not, then the student might have to change the research proposal a little bit, just in order to just suit what we have in Monash education in our faculty.
Because I guess the alternative, I don't know if they have anything like that in the Faculty of Arts, Steve, you're probably better placed to answer that, but the alternative might be to look for a second supervisor or third supervisor. So keep your supervisors from Monash Faculty of Education, but look for a third supervisor with a specialty in that area from a different faculty or even from a different university.
Yeah. Depending on the component parts of that master's degree in higher education and student affairs, like if there's a substantial thesis component, then you'd be eligible for a PhD. And it's difficult to know exactly what constitutes student affairs in this context, just seeing those few words. But you could still start by looking at the staff members in education, culture and society, one of the 3 schools in the faculty, because there we do have a number of people whose research is at least on higher education. I don't quite know what constitutes student affairs, but there are a number of people like Tan Pam, for example, who looks at higher education and student employability. So there are people that might be somewhat fit. And I guess that reminds me to say that you should explore conversations with these types of people, because it won't always be an absolute fit. Like Megan and I supervise people whose work is not the perfect alignment with what we do, but it might be methodologically aligned, or like a theory that we know about that we can supervise. So it won't be an absolute kind of perfect marriage every time.
That's right. And the second area to that question, Steve, I just saw was, do I have to pursue an MPhil in education? You don't. It's your choice. If you want to go ahead and work in that area of student engagement or student affairs, then I guess you look for employment in that area. The choice is yours as to whether or not you pursue an MPhil in education. I mean, obviously, we would strongly direct you in that area, because we really enjoy having masters and PhD students come and join us, but that's really entirely up to you. And I hope I've understood that correctly.
Thanks, Megan and Steve. I think because of time, we might have to wrap up really quickly. I just would like to ask one question for Jackie, because there was a question addressed to you, Jackie. Dear Jackie, may I know about your reimbursement research funding? Do you know the funding is from scholarship?
Yeah, so I think every year PhD students receive funding, but it's limited. So for example, when I went to the Philippines to collect my data, they reimbursed my plane ticket. So that's it. I think it's $1,000 every month. And there's also funding for conferences, but yes, it's subject for approval. So it depends on the context of the student.
Yeah, so the grad research team can assist you with that. Alice, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, all the candidates, once they enroll in the PhD on the MPhil, they will have the faculty funding. And also MGRO, the Monash Graduate Research Office, will provide some funding as well. So it will depend on what things that you want to claim. For example, it's like you want to travel for conference, the conference fees, maybe you can be able to claim it. And then also if you're looking for editing your thesis or proofreading, that's also that you can claim some of that from the student funding.
Brilliant.
So, Jen, I just see one question there, which I think really I have a burning desire to answer.
Go ahead.
And that is, how old is too old to begin a PhD? You are never, ever too old to begin a PhD. I think I was looking this up myself, and I saw a 93-year-old had started her PhD, and she actually she qualified as a doctor when she was 97. So I think, you know, if they can do it, anyone can do it. So I really don't think that you're too old to start your PhD. If you have a burning question and you're really interested in research, then I would strongly encourage you to do it.
That's great. Yeah,
Yes, I agree.
no age limit. Oh, Jackie, you go.
Yeah, I agree with Megan. And when I started my PhD, when I was in first year, I felt like I was a baby being nurtured by my two parents, my two supervisors, and then eventually became a toddler, and then all through an adult, and then I went all through those stages.
Yeah, indeed. It's never too old to start a PhD, because if you have that desire to solve a research problem, then you just have to do it. And Monash here, we have excellent experts in many fields of education, and our researchers are here to support you. And you can, although it's your own research, you're not alone. You are supported by your supervisors, by other PhD students just doing in the same area. They can be from other universities as well. You know, you're doing this journey is shared. All right, I think we probably have to wrap up, and there will be there will be opportunities for people to ask more questions. So you can go onto the website monash.edu/education/research/degrees, or scan that QR code to find out more information. And there should be the contact details of our grad research teams on that website as well. And I'd just like to thank our great panel today, Professor Steve, Professor Megan, Dr. Jackie, Alice, Romalia, for being with us tonight. Thank you for your time, and everyone have a good evening.
Thanks so much. Thanks, Jen. Thanks, Patrick. Thanks, Steve and
Everyone.
Alice.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.